to the Kennedy Events Podcast, where we feature top marketing, communications, and future of work leaders and share their biggest takeaways and insights. We love these conversations and hope you will too. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Kennedy Events Podcast, where we uncover the future of bringing people together through the eyes of industry leaders. Whether that's retaining top talent for your business, attracting your ideal partners, or retaining your best customers, learn from professionals who have been there and done it so you can too. I'm your host, Paige Buck. Past guests include Kim Alpert of Udemy, Russell Benaroya of Stride, and Elise Napolitano of the Sprezzatura Entrepreneura. Today, I have Megan Flatt, the founder of Let's Collective, a business growth strategy firm devoted to making entrepreneurship easier. Megan has launched a sister brand, Focus Sessions, providing dedicated, distraction-free virtual co-working to get your most important work done. I'm excited to talk to her, and before we dive in, today's episode is brought to you by Kennedy Events. Kennedy Events creates stress-free conferences and events, providing expert management and design for all of your corporate event needs, from in-person to virtual and hybrid. You can learn more about us at kennedyevents.com. Hey, Megan. How you doing?
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. All right. I realize I don't know this, and you and I know each other pretty well. How did you get started in coaching?
Oh my goodness. Well, so my background and my college degree is actually in fitness. And so I was actually working as a personal trainer for many years here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And my area of expertise was pre and postnatal fitness. So I was working with women who either were pregnant or had just had babies. And so obviously while we're working out, we're having all of these conversations about what they're going to do next. And in the Bay Area, you have this amazing pool of, people and parents that have these amazing companies and amazing businesses and amazing careers and Ivy League degrees and, all the things. And so there was always this conversation about, do I go back to work? Do I leave my new baby home, with a nanny? And do I go back to this career that I've spent so long building? Or do I leave my career and stay home with my child? And it was always this kind of conversation that we were having. I always joke, like, between the bicep curls. And myself, I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. So I've never had a corporate job. I've never had a 9-to-5 job. I ran a dance studio. I taught swim lessons. I was a personal trainer. I've always done something very entrepreneurial. And so these conversations that I would have with my clients would kind of start to turn to, well, what if there was a hybrid? What if you created your own thing? And, that led to these conversations that, then it's like, okay, let's talk about that. Let's look at how we could do that.
Yeah, I hear you. I think it's fascinating that you found yourself like in those dialogues, and then you're like, I can make this a business too.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm a guide. I'm a good guide for this. And so when you made that transition to strategic business consulting and out of bicep curls and
Yes.
tracking fitness progress, what were some of the early days like for you?
Well, yeah. And that's what I can picture it. I can picture the client that I was with. And it was one day where I was training her in her home. And it was one day where I showed up to her door and she was wearing, street clothes. She wasn't wearing her workout clothes. And she said to me, and I thought, oh, maybe she's sick or she's not feeling like working out today. And she said to me, can we just I'll pay you for this session. Can we spend the whole time talking about the business idea that we came up with during my last, personal training session? And that was the light bulb where I went, oh my gosh, yes, we can. And people need this, and people need this help, and people need this advice.
I realize as you're telling me this origin story that you've seen a lot of people have an idea and build it into something. And then you've also probably seen a lot of people like midway in the mid stages of that. They've launched it and they're trying to figure out the next stage. Do you have some favorite
Yes.
observations of like watching people do that and what that's like?
Yeah, that it's so fun. Thank you for acknowledging that for me too, because this was, over I mean, this was close to 15 years ago that I had this conversation, and I've been running my consulting business for over 10. And so to think back to that origin story and to think about, one of the things that I started out, that really starting out helping people through a transition, right? Through a life transition. And if I look at, even when I left the fitness industry and became completely focused on business consulting, that thread has really stayed true. That really, I think what business consulting is helping people, helping business owners through the various transitions that are entrepreneurship. And so I look at different journeys. One of the analogies you've probably heard me use, and one of the analogies that I always talk about, is this idea of the spiral staircase in
Mm-hmm.
business, and where as business owners we revisit similar topics over and over again, and it's easy to get frustrated, it's easy to get discouraged. It's like, well, I'm back to square one, or here I am trying to figure out my ideal team, who my ideal team is, or here I am trying to figure out my marketing strategy again. And it can be really discouraging because you feel like, gosh, haven't I done this already? And I tell my clients, no, you're not back to square one. You're coming around the rung of a spiral staircase, and you're back to the same topic, but you're a rung higher. You've brought all of that experience, you've brought all of that knowledge with you, and now you're making another decision, and about marketing, about your team, about your ideal client, whatever it is. And the truth of the matter is, you're going to go around the spiral again, and at some point in the future, you're going to visit this concept again. And so I think transitions, it's really what entrepreneurship is all about, and it's making the next best decision for you, for your family, for your business, for your community, wherever it is that you want to make that impact.
Yeah, and I think it can be helpful to have that. You've got the spiral staircase perspective where you're looking at it from higher up, and you're like, okay, maybe it feels scarier because you are higher up, like the risks feel greater, the
Yeah.
fall would be further. But as you said, you're bringing that perspective with you. What do you think? Like, I wonder how often are you having to like bring that back around, sort of like give straight talk, or calming talk me down, but not down off the spiral staircase talk to your clients.
Oh, well, every time, all the time. I joke that, business consulting is parallel to therapy, right?
Right.
But so all the time. But I think that, again, that's what I'm here for, and that's what a business consultant, whether it's a paid business consultant, whether it's a mentorship program that you're participating in, whether it's a good business friend that you're able to have these kind of solid conversations with, it's a safe place to, I sound like parenting advice right here, but it's the same in parenting, right? It's like, it's a safe place to test limits,
Mm,
right? So my clients come to me and they kind of say, like, what if, or I'm frustrated with this, or this situation is feeling sticky, this is feeling uncomfortable, this isn't feeling the way I want it to feel. And then we start saying together, like, well, what if?
yeah.
Well, what if you did this? And kind of trying it on. Like, I often, again, I'm full of analogies. We'll get about 400 during this podcast interview, but it's kind of like trying on a pair of shoes, right? Like, you try on a pair of shoes and you're kind of deciding, like, oh, these are uncomfortable, or, you know what, these are a little tight right now, but I think they're going to stretch and be perfect, and so that's what I feel like I do with my clients, is like, hey, let's try on a bunch of different shoes in this conversation, so that then you can go back into your business wearing the best possible fit, and then try those out for a while.
I know from talking with you about other projects, other experiences you've watched people move through, that sometimes, and I have this belief that I've probably been this client to you. Um, Sometimes people come to you and they say, I'm stuck. I'm coming to you because I'm stuck, but then every new opportunity you give them, path you offer them, they're like, nope, nope, been there, done that, tried that. I told you, Megan, I'm stuck.
Mhm.
And yet I feel like you are gifted at helping people get unstuck. How does that, what do you think that looks like when people start moving off of their like arms crossed, leaning back, super resistant, and into like, let's try something? What's the magic there?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So before I share that, I'm going to share, talking about fitness industry, I'm going to share a quick story. So I just had my 45th birthday. So this is the difference between being 22 and being 45. Um, when I was 22 and I was personal training, and it's funny on the video how you just kind of sat back and crossed your arms. And I remember the gym that I was working at. I remember having this woman come to me. You got a free session when you joined the gym. You got a free session with the personal trainer. And I remember her coming to me, and I was new to the industry and young, and she did exactly that. She sat down in the chair, she crossed her arms, and she said, I hate vegetables and I won't do a squat. I want to see you make me lose weight. And 22-year-old me was like, oh, okay, well, we could do this and we could try this. And I could tell you this. And here's my education. And here's what I know. And here's all my thing. 45-year-old me would say, I can't help you. Right. And maybe not quite that, not that quite that direct. But I also realized that like people, like, it's not my job to make you, at 22, it wasn't my job to make that woman lose weight, and it's not my job to make my clients change their businesses, change the path they're on, do something different,
Right.
hire someone, fire someone, offer a new product, offer a different product. That's not, I can't. I had a personal training friend that used to say, like, I can't hold the fork for you. Right. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing in business consulting. It's like,
Yeah.
I think I realized that I was afraid in that situation that I looked like I didn't know what I was doing if I couldn't help this woman.
Yeah.
And now I'm confident enough and I realize enough that like, that's not my job.
And I
So
imagine
that's the first. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, what you just said is a really great place to move somebody. If you say, well, then I'm not going to be able to help you, that woman might very well say,
Right.
oh, no, wait. But
Right.
But I'm here,
Yeah.
but I'm here.
And that is to give you like the actual answer. Like, so that is what I really focus on. And again, I'm sure you and I have talked about this, but when someone comes to me, it's usually because something is uncomfortable, something feels stuck, something doesn't feel right, something's not flowing. And so I really go from a place of, we don't start with what are you going to do? We start with how do you want to feel?
Mm-hmm.
So you are feeling a certain way right now and you don't like the way that feels. So how do you want to feel? Let's not even worry about how we're going to get there, but how do you want to feel? How do you want your team to feel? How do you want your day to feel? How do you want your the way you make money? Like, how do you want it to feel? And I know that feels a little kind of, esoteric or a little bit in the clouds, but I think if we start from there, then it eliminates that. It doesn't eliminate, but it helps to break down that, oh, wait, I've tried that. I don't want to do that. There's all these things. It's like, okay, well, you want to feel different. How are we going to get there? And then we're kind of we can usually agree on the end result. We can usually agree on, we want to solve this problem so that you can feel this way. And then we can just start backing it out, right? Okay, so what do you need to do? What do we need to do to make you feel this way? Or what does this ideal situation look like? Or how is your team different when you feel this way? And we can start kind of going through those questions and kind of back into an answer, which isn't always easy for me because I want to jump into, what you should do? You know what would be good, right? So really
and
kind of
tapping into
backing
the
into
emotions can feel both like the hardest thing, but it's the most powerful thing, and it's at the center of everything else. So
right.
I love when you've asked me this question, because I'm often in like in my head and not my heart. I'm in tactics, like, well, okay, we can do this.
Yes.
We can do this, we can do this, we can do this, or I can implement the plan that I was taught in this book, or, you know, the org chart could look like this. And when you get me and Maggie together, when we shift into, this is what I want it to feel. It feels like this now.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to feel like this later. and then the path becomes easier to discover together.
Well, and you can start to peel it back like an onion too. It's like, okay, if it feels like this and you want it to feel like this, what are the individual pieces of that, and business owners, despite my making a career around task management and time management and project management and focus and all of those things, business owners don't have a problem taking action, right? Like we don't. That's why we're able to own our own businesses. That's why we're able to be entrepreneurs, is because there's something innate inside of us that makes us action takers. And so I think with entrepreneurs, it's actually getting people to stop taking action long enough to think about how they want to feel.
Right. And I imagine that what can come from thinking about actually being able to name some feelings is that then when somebody says, like, when you move into something like a vision exercise, it's less scary. It used to feel like very shut down to me. Like, think about a year from now. I'm like, think about 5 years from now. Absolutely not. Like, that's like, that's just very untenable and incalculable to me. But, what do you want? How do you want to feel is really powerful. So
I was just going to say, I had a business friend of mine mention once, and this was in the middle of, I think this was the beginning of 2021 when she mentioned this to me. So the middle of a pandemic, we're all kind of we've all had to completely, one way or another, we've completely reinvented something about our businesses and our lives during the pandemic. And I remember her saying, it was, it was January 4th. Like I can picture it. It was January 4th, 2021. And she said to me, I want to make sure I'm building the house I want to live in. And that was such a like, for me, to think about my own business. Is like, sometimes we just get on that, like you said, we get on this path, we do the thing the book said, we do what we think we have to do to scale, what we think we have to do to grow, and being able to step back and say, what kind of house do I want to live in, and am I building that house?
Right.
I think is really powerful.
Come to find you're like building something and it's big and you wouldn't want to be there. It's not appealing to you at all. Yeah,
exactly.
So you were talking,
but sometimes we just get so heads down that we're just, go forward.
I'm building a condo complex that reaches all the way to the sky, and I wouldn't want to live in one of those units. It might bring me money, but it's not going to bring me happiness. Or the inverse, which is, bigger challenge. Right. So you were talking about like major transitions, and, we're living through transition after transition. It seems like never ending moment of change. You've had a big business like growth and change for yourself. Tell me about your new offering, Focus Sessions.
Yes. So before we even get to Focus Sessions, I'll back up a little bit and just, my whole career since, the day my client opened her door and wanted to talk about her business, I've always really focused on kind of some version of one-on-one consulting. And I've done group programs, and I've done masterminds, and I've done one-on-one consulting. But at the end of the day, it's always me downloading my brain into someone else's brain. And in 2019, an organization that you and I are both a part of, one of the mentors in that organization said to me, and it's so funny because other people have been like upset that he said this to me, like that but he said to me, he said, "You're really running a practice, not a business." And it was so impactful for me to hear that, because there are completely amazing, wonderful, legitimate ways to scale consulting businesses. And it wasn't what I wanted to do. I loved working one-on-one. I loved getting under the hood and digging into my client's business. And so it didn't matter. Didn't matter how much I raised my rates. It didn't matter what, like, it was still, at the end of the day, the business relied on my brain and my, being the face of the brand, although that sounds, kind of ridiculous, but like, that's what a consulting business is. Like, you get someone to trust you, whether they're trusting you for 1 hour a week or 1 hour a year, they still have to decide, like, I want the information that you have in your brain.
Right.
And then we go into a pandemic. So, I have this kind of quote in my head, and then we move into a pandemic. And most of my clients were parents and were primary caregivers. And so we get into this pandemic, and everyone is all of a sudden, most of my clients run online businesses, not all of them, but most of my clients run online businesses. Most of my clients were already working from home when the pandemic hit. And everyone's lives shifted, mine included.
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden kids are home, partners' businesses are changing, our businesses are changing, your business changed,
Schedules are nonsense. Yeah.
Schedules are nonsense. And so it was really it was kind of this, like, this compounding thing that was happening. It was like, okay, I was already looking for a change, or what's this next iteration, what's this next transition for me, what's this next iteration. And then the pandemic came, and the consulting, and honestly, like, if we're being super transparent, and if I'm pulling back the curtain on this podcast, I feel a little bit like I sabotaged my own business. Because all of a sudden I had these 2 kids home with me. I had spent my entire career to that point telling people how they could be a parent and run a business at the same time, and teaching them time management tips, and teaching them project management tips, and teaching them how to structure their business so that it would work for their life. And then all of a sudden I had 2 kids that were home, needing to do their school from home. I had a husband in the senior care industry who was going through his own traumatic COVID events and needing to have support around that. I had 2 parents who had both had significant health crisis in 2019 that were recovering from that. And I got into 2020, and all of a sudden I was like, I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Like, who am I to tell anyone how to run their business, when I felt like my head was going to explode?
You sound like, you had like a crisis of doubt. Like, it doesn't sound like
100%.
sabotage. It sounds
Yeah.
like a legit, like, questioning your own foundation.
Well, it was sabotage when I questioned my own foundation, and then said, well, maybe I should shut down my coaching practice. So then I kind of started, like, and it wasn't that I ever made that decision, like, I'm shutting the doors, but it, if you're not feeling confident, it's harder to sell coaching. It's harder to convince people to, when my clients would come to me and say, I need to take a break from coaching, I'd be like, okay,
yeah, I get it.
You probably should.
Yes,
I get it.
Yeah, off you go.
So
I feel you.
Yeah. So I feel you, exactly. And so, kind of fast forward to the end of 2020. And one of the things, I'd been running masterminds and group coaching since about 2014. And we had always, in our masterminds, because we're all virtual, because so many of my clients work from home by themselves, solopreneurs, we had always done something in our masterminds called virtual coworking, where just this, we don't have coworkers, we don't have that office environment, and people missed it and missed that accountability. They missed that connection, that collaboration. So as part of our program, we started doing these virtual coworking sessions. And so at the end of 2020, I got the idea through, seeing what was out there in the market, through hearing what my clients were needing, what they were struggling with. We were all trapped at home. We all, the co-working spaces were closed. The coffee shops were closed. All of that there were no conferences, business conferences happening in person. Like, all of that connection had been eliminated. And so that was when I came up with the idea of like, what if this virtual co-working that we were offering once a month or once a week, what if that was a standalone service? And so in 2021, I launched Focus Sessions, and Focus Sessions is, I like to say, my fitness background, it's like a gym, but for productivity. We offer 16 90-minute virtual co-working sessions a week. And the idea is it's a place where people can get their most important work done. We know as entrepreneurs and as small businesses that we are constantly distracted because we wear a million hats. We're the CEO, but we're also the VP of marketing, and we're the janitor, and we're everything in between. And so I would see myself and I would see my clients, our days filled with Slack pings and text messages and calls and meetings and all of the things. And we weren't doing the activities that we needed to do to move our business forward. And so using brain science, using neuroscience, using research around accountability, I put together a team because I had learned from my business, okay, if I'm going to start something new, I don't want it built on my shoulders alone. I'm not the expert or the only expert at this. So I brought in a team. I brought in people to help me build this program based on their expertise. I brought in a former client of mine, Miriam Burke, who is kind of our program manager. She is a former lawyer, a mediator. She's got a background in neuroscience and a background in coaching. And so brings that kind of mindset piece to it. And we created this program with the rest of our team. We created this program where people could set aside dedicated time during the day to get their most important work done so then they can turn the computer off. They can get back to the other things that are important to them in life. And that's where Focus Sessions came from.
So I've dipped my toe into Focus Sessions. I know you offer like a free trial session, and I used it recently because I find, for me, the challenge I'm having is focusing on anything but work. I do a great job when I will get it done if I'm accountable to somebody else. And in my work life, most of my stuff has consequences for other people, or there's going to be a meeting with my partner or even our virtual CFO. Like, even though he is a consultant to me, I'm still like, I got to show up. I have to have done my homework before I have this meeting.
I have to have done my.
But I'm really, really bad at being accountable to myself about, say, that scheduling the optometrist appointment, or the things I told my spouse I would do. Some household improvement, some flight I need to look at, whatever it might be. So I was like, maybe I would use this especially for this. And I've experienced it now, and it was illuminating. It absolutely could be one of the tools and a really big part of solving that for myself, because I love the energy that it puts you in. Like, I think and I assume they all run the same feel.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah. So that's what we did. Everything is built around science and there's some research that backs up everything we do in a focus session. So all of the sessions are hosted, and all of the hosts follow the exact same flow, because we know that is the sequence that will get people into the best state to focus. And exactly what you said, I love that you brought that up, because we recommend, and whether you join focus sessions or whether you do these sessions on your own, it's this idea of, I am blocking out a certain amount of time. We do 90 minutes because science tells us 90 minutes is about the right amount of time for our brains to focus. We're not supposed to focus all day long. We're not supposed to be, we're supposed to focus in shorter chunks. So whether for you, it's right to do a 15-minute sprint or a 30-minute sprint or a 90-minute sprint, deciding that time, and then being really intentional with what you're going to do with that time and what you're not going to do with that time. So even if you're using the time to book all of the medical appointments that you need to book, then you need to be dedicated to that and not be checking Slack, sending a quick work email, because we all know, we've heard the statistics that it takes you, if you're multitasking or you get distracted, it takes you 20 minutes to get back. And that's what we're trying to avoid. It's like, decide what you want to do, focus on that, and then be done with it and move on to the next thing. And if the next thing is something else for work, or if the next thing is taking your kids to the beach, or like whatever it is, you move on to the next thing.
Yeah, the intention setting was powerful, the sort of grounding meditation at the top. And then there's that very easy to take for granted, but like shared experience of, even though I'm on Zoom and I'm with other people, and I feel like I do that a lot anyway, we've made a collective agreement to be present in this way together. And so I feel some camaraderie and some, like, I don't know you, but I still feel accountable to you. Works really well for me.
There was a study in 1930 or maybe 1920. There was a study in 1920 that said that when people were working on tasks, sitting at the same table, even if they weren't collaborating or competing, they performed better on that series of tasks than when they were alone. So this is before smartphones, this is before the distraction of social media, all of these other things. We've learned that when you work in kind of tandem with someone, even if it's not someone you know, even if you're not working on the same thing, even if you're not racing to finish something, that you're more likely to get it done. And again, whether that is this important sales email that you have to write, or whether it's, you know, making those appointments that have kind of fallen off your to-do list, that if you've said to the group, we declare in the chat what we're going to be working on. If you've said, hey, this is what I'm going to be working on, and at the end we ask you, you know, how did you do? Nobody wants to say like, oh, I, you know, scrolled Facebook for the last hour, or
yeah,
I spent the whole time responding to my team in Slack. You know, you want to be held accountable to that.
You want that. Yes. And so this is an ongoing conversation as our team grows, and now we're 100% virtual. We're among more time zones than we used to be. We have new members and people who've been on the team for a little more than a year, and people who've been on the team for more than 5 years. So there's constant like knowledge sharing that needs to happen as well, transfer and collaboration, and how to like move the ball forward when we're sometimes we're asynchronous. You're in a meeting, I have a question. It's after business hours for me, you need my approval. So what are some ways that you see for teams to harness some of the same neuroscience lessons that you learned to work more effectively together?
Yeah, really. I mean, it's all about, and this is kind of the double-edged sword of being able to work virtually, of being so connected, of having cell phones, of having wireless, of having all of these things where we're not all, you know, walking into the same office building, punching the clock, staying, leaving for an hour for lunch, coming back, walking out, punching the clock. Like, because we're not doing that anymore, we've lost a lot of those parameters that were just innately set, you know, pre-internet, pre-Wi-Fi, pre-COVID, pre-smartphones, pre all those things.
Pre-breaking our brains with dopamine triggers. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, you know, kind of to answer your question, I think it really does come about putting those boundaries back in place. I love this story that, and I've never seen it firsthand, but I've heard this story about Slack as a workplace, that when they were developing the program Slack, they wanted there to be the do not disturb button. They wanted there to be settings where you could turn off Slack, and that the company apparently has very good culture around boundaries, and they apparently have a neon sign in their offices that say work hard and go home. And, you know, so I think it's the bigger piece is really having this company culture where even if you're the boss, even if someone else is waiting for you, you're not expected to approve something after business hours. That, you know, or just creating some ground rules. And maybe it is, I'll approve something after business hours, whatever the ground rules are, but kind of setting those ground rules. And we made a decision. My team is also completely virtual. We're also in multiple different time zones. And so we decided to set business hours, and we set them, their Pacific time zone, because I'm in the Pacific time zone. But when I hire someone new, my most recent hire is on the East Coast. But when I hired her, I said, these are the business, you need to work between, I want it to be flexible for people. So we say that 75% of your hours have to fall in this chunk of time. Now, if she wants to work at 6 a.m. her time, which is 3 a.m. my time, that's fine. But she's not going to get a response from me until between 9 and 2 Pacific time. And, and vice versa. I don't expect her, I might expect her to still be checking her Slack at 5 p.m. her time, because that's 2 p.m. my time. And that's what we've established our business hours. But I don't, just because I'm working until 5 p.m. Pacific time, I don't expect her to still be working at 8 p.m. East Coast time. So it's just having that conversation and being upfront about it. And we made decisions, to close as an office, like the week of 4th of July, no one's working. We made some of those kind of cultural decisions to help build in some of those boundaries.
I love that. Yeah, it's an evolving thing for us, and I imagine it is for a lot of places. Since you used the analogy before, can you get a corporate gym membership to focus sessions?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that is really fun about focus sessions is we started offering these partnerships, and they work kind of two different ways. We've partnered with some people to provide, just like a gym membership, to provide focus sessions to their clients. So, for example, we're partnered with a woman who runs a coaching program for moms and helping them with healthy habits and healthy eating and all of these things. And she gives them a focus session membership as part of the cost that they're paying to her to get their, do their meal planning, do the work and things, the homework from her program in focus sessions. And then she pays us a wholesale price to be able to offer that. So that's one way, is that people are offering it as a perk to their clients. And then the other way that we do that is, like you said, that corporate membership. So working with teams where their team is dispersed, and then the CEO buys a focus session membership for all of the team members. And that's a really fun way for them. I've hosted sessions where you'll have like all of the team members will show up for a 9 a.m. focus session. And even though they're all working on the same thing, and we do it within our own team, we'll be in our team Slack channel saying, okay, I'm about to jump into the 9 a.m. focus session. I'm going to have that, that email series for you to review at 10:30. And so then, we're using the focus sessions to kind of hold each other accountable. Or we'll even say, like, someone will say, like, can you get this done for me? And the person might say, yep, I'll do it in the noon focus session on Friday. And so we use it as a way to.
I think it's a great way for a business to say, we care about deep work and not distraction, but then to model that and say, like, and here's the opportunity, here's a tool to practice it. It sounds really
here's
powerful.
Where you can do your deep work. Like that it's okay. Like, here's a focus session membership. Go into a focus session, turn off your Slack channel, don't check email, do the deep work you need to move the business forward. And we know that people are more productive and actually like the true sense of more productive. They're actually produce more when they have that focus time.
I love that. Okay, I'm going to do a quick lightning round with you as we bring this plane in for a landing. I think of you as a hungry mind, like you can't help but be like you're consuming and using new things to stimulate new ideas for you and your clients all the time. So, podcast of the moment for you, if you're a podcast listener.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so now this has been, podcasts have a little bit been my COVID casualty, if you
Like
will.
ice
But a
cream
couple,
or thing that you had to let go of.
right, exactly. Like the thing that I kind of had to let go of, because I would often listen to podcasts during commute and during travel. But I will tell you a couple of my favorite. My friend Meg Casebolt hosts a podcast called The Social Slowdown, and that is definitely, I'm constantly, like, I almost use it as a research tool. She is all about how are we building businesses without relying on social, and what are the longer, more sustainable ways to build businesses. And I always joke that I want to pay her just to introduce me to the people she knows, because so she always has the most amazing podcast guests. And then my other dear friend, Leah Niederthal, Smart Gets Paid, has a podcast where she talks with female leaders about all sorts of different things, but definitely along that like kind of sales strategy. She had someone that was talking about building confidence recently. And so those are definitely two of the podcasts that that when I can tune in, I listen to.
That's what you tune into. Recent favorite business book?
Goodness. So a couple, I can't say one. Atomic Habits is one of my all-time favorite business books. Other all-time favorite business book is You're a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. That I read that 3 times in a row in 2017, and it changed my life every time I read it. The Sweet Spot by Christine Carter, another like kind of life-changing book.
Love that. Some of these are like
those are my
completely unheard of to me. So you're like giving me fuel. And then I'll just wrap by saying, that's your faves. Tell me somebody that you're grateful to.
I love this. And I just think because we work, the nature of our work is solo. And even when you have teams and you've got other people that you're working with, sometimes you really need a place where you can talk about whatever it is. You can talk about wanting to burn your business down. You can talk about something you're excited about, but you're not ready to share with the world yet. And so I think like business besties are so important. And Leah, I just mentioned her podcast, Leah Niederthal is my business bestie for sure. We have a robust Voxer relationship. We Voxer back and forth every day, probably. And it is those things that it's like, hey, I had this idea. What do you think? Oh, I'm feeling uncomfortable about raising my prices. What do you think? Oh, I'm so frustrated by this. Or, oh, I don't feel like working today. What should I do? Or I had this big win. I wanted to share it with you. And I think that those are such important relationships that we all need. So she is definitely someone I'm grateful for.
I love that. What a great reminder, but also that's a prompt to think about the way you harness and like make use of that relationship, get the most out of that relationship and give in that relationship too. So you and Leah sound like you have something special. Yeah.
It's great. And we try to, I always recommend this. Like, I think it's important for us as business owners to have regular conversations with other business owners, however you facilitate that.
Yes.
I think it's a really important thing.
So Megan, we've been talking with you for a while now, and I'm so grateful for your time. And where can people find out about you, Let's Collective, and strategy sessions?
Yes. So if you definitely go to letscollective.co, and if you want to check out anything about my business consulting, my business coaching, and then I'd love to send you to focus-sessions.com to learn more about Focus Sessions. Like you said, there's a free trial on the membership. Come try out a session, join us for a session and see what it's all about. And I'm at either Megan Flatt or Focus Sessions on most social channels. So you can always find me there as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Kennedy Events Podcast. Come back next time and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.